Now, I don't know who the grasshoppers are and who the crow would be. Yesterday, we were talking about the political silly season gaining speed. I mean, we have seen the politicians are back out. It's as if COVID had taken them onto some sort of hibernation. The hibernation is over. The politicians are out. We have seen the deputy president going around the country. He was in Kisii. He was in the coast. We have seen the ODM leader going around the country. He was in the coast over the weekend. He's planning to go to Kisii and he's holding other meetings. And we've also seen political realignments taking shape. One of those is Eliud Owalo. Yesterday, he went to Karen and he came out of Karen a changed man. You know, on his way to Damascus, he basically just got somewhere and he was like, "No."
You're suggesting that he had a road to Damascus experience.
Or entered the Jordan River.
Yes.
Or he had the experience and then decided to go to Damascus.
So basically, Eliud Owalo says he has joined the Hustler movement and he's going the full hog with William Ruto 2022. And just a statement that he released yesterday. Over the past 2 months, I have done a great deal of internal reflection, consulted widely, scanned and analyzed emerging issues in the political environment. It's evident that the real problems facing Kenya today are high levels of unemployment, high costs of living, blatant corruption, spiraling debt at all levels, loss of purchasing power for the consumer. We are also witnessing a worrying trend where the democratic space we have witnessed over the past 2 decades is drastically diminishing as a result of impunity and wanton disregard to the Constitution. So, with that being said, now let's ask ourselves, where are Wanjiko's needs in all this talk for 2022? Is Wanjiko being featured at all anywhere? Yesterday, in the similar hour to this, the 8 to 9 o'clock hour, we're looking at public debt. The government is planning to borrow to the tune of almost $1 trillion in the next financial year, both domestically and foreign debt. And we're asking ourselves, do the decision makers actually consider the plight of Wanjiko, the voter, when they're making these decisions? So, and this is what we want to discuss today. Eliud Owalo, just to remind you, was last year we had invited him to the studio and he came to speak to us. He was a candidate for the Kibra by-election under the Amani National Congress ticket. And we asked him, hey, wait, Eliud, the last time we had heard about you, you were in ODM. And he told us, no, I left that party. I saw the light and I thought that this is the best vehicle for me, the Amani National Congress. A couple of months ago, we saw a statement from Eliud Owalo saying, you know what, I have thought really hard. I have looked at my experience in the Amani National Congress and I have decided to step out. He's been out. Yesterday, we saw the statement that I've just read. I have looked at the plight of the country and I am seeing that the best way to go is this new route. So let's ask him. Eliud Owalo is joining us on the line. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
So you've just heard what I've said. We remember between 2017 and 2020, Eliud Owalo has been in 3 major political movements.
Yes.
Explain yourself, please.
Well, I did explain the circumstances that first of all led to my leaving the Orange Democratic Party. That is now information which is in the public domain. I don't really need to get back there. I joined the Amani National Party just in the period before the Kibra parliamentary by-elections. At that point in time, in my heart of hearts, I believed that ANC presented me with the best vehicle to enable me not just vie for the Kibra parliamentary election, but also to be part of the national. Well, 1 year down the line, I'm out of that party. And I've gone ahead and given reasons why I've left that party. First of all, I want you to understand that I've known Musalia for a very long time, over a period of over 20 years. We have a personal relationship outside the ambit of the Amani National Congress. Now, the way we were conducting our affairs within the Amani National Congress Party, perhaps in my view, was not the best way to progress forward. So I decided to step back a little bit so that I let them move with their political discourse the best way they know. And of course, with all due respect, also maintain the professional relationship that I've had with Honorable Mudavadi over a period of time, which is over 2 decades. So that is actually the position I took, and I've decided to move on. Yesterday, I'm a very decisive person, and when I make decisions, and announce publicly. Yesterday, I decided to join the movement led by Deputy President William Ruto. And my decision is informed by several fundamental issues. One, I believe that we need unity of purpose in this country. Today, our national political fabric was on the brink of collapse. We are witnessing a situation where political formations are being built around tribes in the guise of the BBI. It's basically political mobilization for 2022. And from where I sit, I don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that 2 or 3 families are working on a scheme to rotate leadership of this country amongst themselves. And personally, I cannot subscribe to that school of thought. I believe our constitution is very clear. I believe that each and every individual in this country, if not even tribal groupings, should have an equal right to ascend to the leadership of this country at all levels. If you look at what is going on in the name of the BBI today, I believe there's nothing wrong with our 2010 constitutional dispensation. The challenge we are facing is lack of implementation and a leadership deficit. That is why there is this, guys, that there are certain fundamental weaknesses in the 2010 constitution. If you ask me, as at today, most Kenyans are not even fully or adequately sensitized on what our 2010 constitutional dispensation entails from different perspectives. And here we are going around telling people that we must change the constitution. So it is my belief, considered belief, that all this thing about the BBI is about creating positions for individuals. So I ask myself, if our interest is really national unity, assuming we expand the executive, for example, we have a president, a deputy president, or even 2 different presidents for that matter, a prime minister and 2 deputy prime ministers. Those are 6 individuals. The best that can happen is that these 6 individuals will come from 6 different ethnic communities. What happens to the other 40 or so communities that we have in this country? So I think it is a lopsided argument. It does not hold any water. And I would rather be counted on the side of Kenyans by identifying with somebody, a leader, whom I believe can put Kenyans together irrespective of our ethnic origins.
This is the deputy president.
Yes, I believe that. I've looked at his...
The deputy head of the current government, the one that you've been...
The deputy head of the current government.
The one that you've now said has led us to where we are. Are you saying that the deputy president, for example, is against the BBI? Has he come out to publicly say that he's against the BBI?
I'm giving you my personal opinion because I made a personal decision to join him.
So why choose to... Why, if you have such strong opinion about or against the BBI, why choose to align yourself with this particular leader unless you're saying that you have common thought?
I'm giving you my personal opinion. I don't want to impute an improper motive of anybody's part, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the deputy president. I believe he will speak for himself at an appropriate time. But I'm giving you my opinion on the basis of the BBI. And mark you, all this is speculative because we have not seen what the BBI report is.
So is your decision as well to join him then in speculation? You've joined...
It's not speculative. I've made a decision to join him. It is not speculative. It's not based on speculation. I'm giving you my position, my thinking on the BBI. He will also give you at an appropriate time, I believe, his thinking on the BBI. I'm giving you my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for him. That really needs to be clear.
Mr. Owalo, I'm a bit confused.
Yes, please.
The deputy president is still the deputy president and is part of this government. And yes. I heard you say that one of the things that you find a little tiresome is people trying to rotate leadership among themselves. And
yes.
If I understand, this particular government, when it came into being, had a mantra, Kumi Mimi, Kumi Ruto. That to me
what has happened now?
That sounds to me like rotation, if ever there was one. So when
But
you
before we
speak
get
of
out
this
there,
rotation, I'm simply seeking clarification. What are you referring to?
before we get out of your argument, what has happened? If it was kumi yangu, kumi Ruto, what has now happened?
We don't know. We
We
haven't
haven't had
finished
an
the 10.
election yet.
That's where I'm
The
getting.
Kumi hasn't finished yet.
Yeah, can I go on? I want
Yes,
to
please.
get there. I want to get there, just where you are.
Yes.
You see, there has been this argument that we need to restructure the executive to widen the participation of Kenyan tribes within political decision. I don't really subscribe to that of thinking. In my understanding, what brings about tensions, every other election cycle, is the culture of political deceit that we have witnessed in this country since independence. Just voted Kenyatta. Immediately after independence, Kenyatta threw him under the bus. Mboya stood with Kenyatta against Jaramogi. You saw what happened. He faced an assassination. Yeah? Later on, Njonjo stood with Moi. He was thrown under the bus. Immediately Moi became president. Raila stood with Kibaki in 2002. Kibaki sidestepped him immediately after the elections. Ruto has stood with Uhuru 3 times. In 2002, in 2013, in 2017. And there's this analogy of kumi yangu, kumi Ruto. What has now happened? It is the same culture of political deceit. These are the fundamental issues that we really need to discuss. These are the facts of the case.
So then,
So let us not use weaknesses in the constitution as a scapegoat.
Oh.
It is the culture of political deceit that is deeply embedded within our political fabric. That's what we really need to address. And instead of politicians, in my thinking, getting into contracts with themselves, let us have certain formidable contracts with the Kenyan people. You ask me, our challenges, as I said yesterday, is employment, high cost of living, spiraling debt, and of course with the net effect that the loss is the loss of purchasing power of the consumer. These are the issues that we need to address, and we need a leadership that can be responsive to these challenges.
and for
That is
what,
my thinking.
and based on all of that, from what you're saying now, is essentially that the current deputy president would then be able to deliver these things that you see as issues to the Kenyan people?
I'll go ahead and qualify that. Yeah? I've watched Ruto's politics. First of all, starting by supporting Uhuru in 2002 against all odds, because the mood of the country then was for change. Nobody wanted anything to do with Kanu. He stuck with Uhuru. I've watched Ruto going against the grain again in the year 2007, sticking his neck out for Raila Odinga. I've again watched Ruto supporting Uhuru Kenyatta in both 2013 and 2017. So I believe that he's somebody who is nationalistic in his politics. I will not belong to a political ambit where you have tribes being put together against other Kenyan tribes. We are all Kenyan, and we need one united country moving forward. So let us be part of a political formation where each and every Kenyan has got an opportunity to belong to.
Are you saying that opportunity currently doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist. Where does it exist? It doesn't exist. Look at the Jubilee establishment itself, all the way from 2013. Okay? There has been the issue of exclusivity. That was a fundamental issue. Immediately, Uhuru Kenyatta formed his government in the year 20. And of course, Ruto was not part of that government. It was a fundamental concern. I've sat down with William Ruto, and he has assured me that he is willing to reach out to each and every Kenyan, each and every community, to be part and parcel of his government. Look at the faces which are now coming in his formation. We have people like Senator Mudama, former Senator Hassan Omar, people like Boni Aluale, Kenyans from all shades of life. I want to be part and parcel of this national political discourse through a truly national political formation.
You've said just now
Not
that
tribal.
in 2013 there was exclusion when Jubilee took over power.
Come again?
You're saying that in 2013 there was exclusion.
Immediately, this current government, the 2013 Jubilee government was from there was exclusion. We cannot run away from that. There was the perception, largely, that the government was then constituted by people from two ethnic communities.
Okay. So
Yes.
when you've had the conversations with William Ruto, does he explain what was happening then? Does he say how you ended up having that exclusion that you could clearly see?
if I put myself the other side, I think William Ruto is fairly in a difficult position today, because the way the current government affairs are being conducted is not the same way they conducted their government affairs in between 2013 and 2017. So I would not really blame him for the acts of omission within the current government since 2017, because we have seen a situation.
I'm actually asking about 2013 to 2017, because that's when you say that those glaring exclusion. That time you were a member of the CORD coalition, which was more inclusive, I'm sure you'll say. But then you're saying the Jubilee government was exclusive.
And I was part of CORD then.
Yes. Now, I'm talking about the 2013 to 2017, when you have just said when the deputy president had more say in the government than he does now. How does he explain that exclusion when you have those private conversations with him?
You see, at times mistakes are made, Latif, in the past, but you use those as lessons learned that should inform future planning. I've had extensive discussions with the deputy president, and he has assured me his government is going to be an all-inclusive government, and telling all members of all Kenyan communities, and also addressing the fundamental issues facing the country, starting with youth and women empowerment, inclusivity, putting in place an appropriate policy and regulatory framework that will ensure that there is good governance.
History,
that
history in this country has taught us that the promises politicians make usually tend to be just that, promises. Because if we talk about the Jubilee government and the promises they made, whether it's of the laptops, whether it's of the stadiums, whether it's of many of these industrial parks that were set up, I mean, there's job creation. There's no shortage of promises that were made that have not been fulfilled to date. And it appears that with the time left before the next election, they will not be fulfilled. And the deputy president happens to not have been, is part of that government that made these promises. So if he were to make new promises, how would one be convinced to believe in these new promises when the old ones had not been kept?
Our past experiences should always inform the actions that we take moving forward. Perhaps the deputy president himself, in his thinking, has also realized that he needs to reach out to people who are not necessarily part of the Jubilee political formation. And that's why you see him reaching out to people who, by and large, have been part of the CORD coalition or the NASA coalition in the recent past. That will actually entail a paradigm shift in the thinking within his political circle.
Let's talk about the politicians and what they want to do for the electorate. And this is the person who's actually putting them in office. When we had a conversation with you, when you came to visit us in the studio last year during the Kibra by-election, you told us, when you visited us in the studio last year, you told us that you believed that Musalia Mudavadi, the leader of the ANC, was the only political leader who had the interest of Wanjiko at heart. And I want to play that clip so that you listen to it, and then you tell us what is it that has changed now from the only political leader then.
My party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, is on record perhaps as the only national politician who articulates issues which touch on the interests of the common mwananchi. Whether it is issues of corruption, wanton corruption at higher levels, whether it is issue of spiraling debt, the position of my party leader on issues of corruption, issues of effective debt management, issues of unemployment, issues of spiraling inflation and the net effects, most people living below the poverty line, is very well registered in the public domain. He is on record today as the only politician at national level who stands with the common man, actually the last man standing.
Do you have a new man standing, Eliud?
It's the same man. Now, the issue here is plans, political plans, and even economic plans must be followed to a logical conclusion. They require action plans. One of the biggest challenges, which even actually informed my leaving ANC, is the level of indecisiveness within the party. Okay? And I don't want really to go into too much detail because Musalia is somebody I've got a lot of respect for. But I believe that in politics, you have to be decisive. There is never a perfect situation or a perfect decision in politics that you'll make which is risk-free. You need to be decisive. Once you come to decisions, if they're positive, turn out to be positive decisions, exploit the opportunities arising from there. If the certain decisions you make turn out to be negative, then you mitigate the risks. But I believe you must be decisive. That is one of the challenges I was facing in ANC, lack of decision making.
But I still want to go back to that, Eliud. What has changed between an individual? It's not about decisiveness. In this case, it is he held the beliefs of Kenyans at heart, understood what Kenyans are suffering from, and would have been able to deliver for Kenyans. What has changed then in the individual in whom you have now put the same beliefs? November 1st, today is September 15th, less than a year later. Has that changed?
Musalia has very good plans. He has got very good thinking. But I'm sorry to say this, he does not follow up his arguments to a logical conclusion.
Was that your thinking on the 1st of November when you made the statements that have just been played?
You see, I've never worked with Musalia in a political formation.
So then how were you able to have such beliefs about him so strong in terms of what you said? Your conviction was very strong. You used words that would have described somebody that you believed would have taken this country to the next level. And here we are, September 15th, less than a year later, and you're saying something totally different. Now, if Kenyans are listening to you about the decision that you've made today, don't you think it would be a bit flip-floppy in their minds about what decisions are being made on a national level?
I'm not flip-flopping. I want you to understand the type of person Eliud Owalo is. I'm a very decisive individual. And I believe in action. I believe in progress. That was lacking in ANC.
You know, one of
together?
Mr. Owalo, I think you made yourself clear. And I also understand that it is your prerogative and privilege to change your mind on an issue if you wish. However, even the changing in itself in this country that we live in, it's something that happens all the time. Political leaders change positions, change parties all the time. Yes. So that is not unusual. But now, getting back to the person you know best, Eliud Owalo.
Yes. I'm not saying Musalia, the person, has changed.
Yes.
But I'm saying his style of doing politics, perhaps, is not in tandem with what I would wish to see.
That is understandable. Again, it is your prerogative. But I'm talking about the person of Eliud Owalo.
Yes. What about myself?
Yes. If Mr. Owalo is to present himself as a credible candidate for whatever seat he may seek to see, he may seek to vie for, in this day and age and in this time, will his sudden change a year after he was in one party not present himself as the complete opposite of who he says he is? Will it not show that he is indecisive?
I'm not indecisive. I pursue what I believe in. Today, I believe that, one, we are not actually right for new constitutional dispensation, and I don't want to belong to a political formation to be advancing that agenda. That is one. Two, I don't believe, and I want to go on record on this, I don't believe that we need to rotate the leadership of this country between three privileged families. I believe that a son of an ordinary man or an ordinary woman needs to have the opportunity to ascend to the leadership of this country. I want to be part and parcel of where Kenyans are. And if you ask me today, the common Kenyan is with William Ruto.
I think you've broached the issue of dynasties versus the hustler nation and want to understand exactly what that is all about. But we also must focus on the issue. Yes, and we must also focus on the issue of what is in it for the voter. Because as we see all political leaders, moving, forming coalitions here and there, shifting from one alliance to the next, we always tend to forget the issue of the voter. And we are then entertained by this high-stakes drama that then leaves us to forget about the voter. And we want to come back and discuss that. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM and on KTN Home, as well as on our digital platforms, www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We are speaking with politician Eliud Owalo, who yesterday announced that he has joined the Hustler Nation. And this is the Deputy President's, William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid, and he says he'll stand with him all the way. Siti, before we went to the break and when we were talking to Eliud, you said, this is Eliud and getting into political alliances is nothing unique to Eliud. It's not even unique to Kenya.
It's not unique to politicians.
It's not unique to politicians. People move from one alliance to another because based on what they feel at that moment is resonating with what they stand for.
Best suited for them.
Yes.
Yep. We even see, presidents, the deputy president, they have all moved from one alliance to another.
They have.
So, Eliud really moving from one to the other is not an issue here of concern. It's just now trying to understand what... Sorry, go ahead.
Our politics, is also dynamic. Politics is not like a static mathematical formula where 1 + 1 is 2. No. Politics is very dynamic. New issues keep on emerging in that environment. And you have to, as a politician, you must strategically react to those situations by means of new alignment.
Yes.
It's not anything different.
Indeed, as a politician. Now, which brings us to the issue of the voter and the common mwananchi, the citizen. Where are the interests of Wanjiku when politicians are moving from one alliance to the next? Where are the interests of Wanjiku when politicians are looking at what best suits them strategically? For example, in this current political formations that we are seeing, political formations left, right, and center, but none of them is even talking about Wanjiku. They're all talking about families versus, this one family versus 3 families. Where are the interests of...
The big elephant in the room has been this dragon, this monster of a debt that we simply keep growing. One doesn't hear any leader of any political party or political divide addressing it directly.
It is worrying, and to me, I attribute it to a leadership deficit we have in this country. We have the problem, one of the fundamental problems we have in this country is a leadership deficit. We have leadership that is not responsive to the interests of the common mwananchi. And I want to take you back to my interview with you, about a year ago. When I was doing my bid for the Kibra parliamentary seat at that point in time, you realized that I pegged my campaign on issues and an economic empowerment agenda.
Yes, you did.
That, to me, is responsiveness to the needs of the common mwananchi. Today, the common mwananchi is facing challenges of unemployment for the youth, lack of opportunities for the women in terms of perhaps business opportunities or sources of livelihood, spiraling debt at all levels, not just national level, but also institutional and individual levels. We are in heavy debt, So these are the mwananchi today, against the background of this corona, is thinking of how to put food on the table. And the political class, on the flip side of it, is preoccupied with this BBI campaign. It is lopsided thinking.
Is it, Mr. Owalo, if we were to take your cue and be honest about this discussion, politicians of, whether it's the BBI divide or the deputy president's divide or President Uhuru's divide or Mudavadi's divide, none of them are addressing this issue, including yourself.
I've tried as an individual. I've never been elected to any leadership position in this country, but as an individual using personal resources, I've gone out of my way to roll out massive economic empowerment agendas in Nairobi and elsewhere. So, my record in this perspective is in the public domain. Before even I decided to run in Kibra, I had taken about 5,000 youth to driving school using my personal resources. Most of them are now drivers all over the place. I had empowered women in Kibra by way of economic activities, small itinerary trades. That is an economic agenda. The deputy president himself has exemplified his pursuit for economic empowerment. I've seen him empowering youth. I've seen him empowering women. I'm not saying that we need to give tokens to individuals, but I believe that if Ruto becomes president, he can put in place a policy framework that would facilitate the economic empowerment for both the youth and women.
Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that if we want to.
Not everybody can do that. We have got
if we're talking about putting in terms of policy framework to get some of these things done, anybody can do that. But what we have seen, unfortunately, is that there has been a heavy reluctance to do that. And the people who are talking about the average Kenyan who need a leg up in terms of development are the average Kenyan. It's not politicians. It's not leaders. It's not those in positions of governance. It is the individuals who are saying, how are we going to get get out of this, right? But then what they're being fed, unfortunately, is this musical chairs that we're seeing people jumping from one place to another, which we have accepted. It is all right, can be done. But when are we going to hear the representative voice of the people of Kenya who are seeking a better life for themselves? When is that going to come to the fore?
It will come when we have good governance. And good governance is a product of the leadership that you have at the top. Mm-hmm. You need a leadership that is decisive. You need a leadership that is responsive to the needs of the common age. That is where we should start from.
If I may opine, I would assume what you're saying here, up until the time of the handshake, that particular space you speak of, there are those who would argue was very firmly occupied by the Honorable Raila Odinga, speaking for the common mwananchi.
Yeah.
Or would you say that that has not been the case? I would argue that has been the case, or at least it has been the perceived case. But the handshake seems to have brought with it other issues that now place him at the complete opposite of what hitherto he had been seen to have represented.
Let me tell you something, my friend.
Muga is the name.
Muga, yes. Mm. I know these politicians at a personal level. The national political leaders, whether it is Uhuru, whether it is Raila, whether it is Ruto, whether it is Musalia. And I've dealt with them at personal level. So they are not new to me, and I understand them. Most of these politicians are not responsive to the needs of the common mwananchi. They pursue their narrow parochial economic interests. I want to be part of a political formation that in my heart of hearts, I believe will be responsive to the needs of the common mwananchi.
So why not form yours then? Why hop onto one of those that have failed? In your own opinion, most of the leaders...
By the way, for your information, before I made the decision to reach out to join the William Ruto's camp, I've had consultations with many people, far and wide, and you will see a massive movement to the William Ruto political axis very soon.
Why?
So it's not just me moving in as an individual. You're seeing an influx of individuals who have been part of different political formations.
So what has influenced this epiphany of all these people who are going to make this mass exodus from wherever they are from and then joining the Ruto side? What is it that has happened? What light bulb moment has occurred to make this a reality?
There's a point of convergence. We believe that we need to stop political impunity. We believe that we need to stop the culture that is creeping back within our national fabric of wanton disregard to our constitution. We are sliding back to the days of single-party dictatorship. Yeah, look at what is happening. What has happened with the COVID funds, and there is nobody there in the opposition talking about it. Yeah, people have literally just looted money. Yeah, it is like switching off a machine when a patient is in the ICU. These are some of the issues that we need to stop. But if we are going to be part and parcel of a formation that thinks of how to divide leadership among themselves and not responsive to the needs of the common mwananchi, then we are going to be on the wrong side of history. I want to be part and parcel of a process that will identify with the majority of Kenyans. And I believe today, William Ruto, like all of us, I'm not perfect. William Ruto may not be perfect. Uhuru Kenyatta is not perfect. All the other politicians are not perfect. None of us as human beings are perfect. But I believe where we are today, to get us out of the current political morass and economic quagmire, we need a leader who is decisive, we need a leader who is proactive, and we need a leader who is responsive.
Do you think you could be such a leader, Eliud? Do you think you could be? I'm asking if I'm asking. Hold on. I'm asking about you as an individual. Do you think you could be this leader? Because everybody that right now is sitting in that position, as Eric has said, has failed. Let's just be honest. In terms of delivering these things that you have just said now, have not been able to deliver them. Do you think you would be able to do that?
I'm not negating my capabilities. I believe I can pursue my ideas to a logical conclusion, but we have to be practical. If I came up with my political formation today, 2 years to the election, perhaps we will not be able to meet the objectives that we desire within a period of 2 years. I would wish to be part of a bigger team, but brought together by a convergence of ideas and convictions.
That sounds good, Mr. Owalo. In the history of this country, we've had really major scandals, and we've had the opposition speak about it, point it out, even when this current government was in power. There are many things that have happened under their watch that have been spoken of, but to what end? The reason why I'm asking this is, when we talk of the ills of this country, we cannot divorce the deputy president from those ills, because he is the deputy president.
Neither can we divorce the president himself.
Yes.
Because it is a joint president.
You see, the reason why I'm bringing this thing up, I'm simply trying to say this, that yes, there is need for change, and one has the privilege and the choice of determining where it is their political path should head. But the reality of our situation is, if we were to go by track records, I would be hard-pressed to say that the leadership that you're speaking of so highly presents a sort of confidence that one has, that one would like to have in feeling that this is a person who has demonstrated his ability to actually lead well by doing the things he has said. All we hear is more promises, Mr. Owalo. How do you entertain more promises when others which had previously been made were never kept?
I want to give you an example of myself. I believe I'm a responsive leader, if I'm a leader. That is.
You are a leader, Mr. Owalo.
Yeah? I believe I'm responsive. I want to give you an example of what I've done during this COVID period. Whereas we were coming up with packages at macro level to address basic subsistence for various groups like employees and vulnerable and so on, nobody was thinking about sportsmen. I went away in my small means to address some of the fundamental issues facing sports fraternity in this country. I gave support to Gor Mahia Football Club. I gave support to AFC Leopards Football Club. I gave support to both our national men's and women's basketball teams. That is responsiveness to the needs of the common mwananchi. So I believe that I've got the potential to identify a gap somewhere and go out of my way through a personal initiative to address a given challenge. That is why I want to be part and parcel of a process that can be responsive to the needs of the common mwananchi. Now, one thing with Ruto, which has attracted me to Ruto, is this. He listens, he shares ideas, and he believes in participatory leadership. The much I know about it. I've worked with all these politicians. I know them at a personal level. Most of them are not responsive to suggestions, and most of them don't listen to advice. I want to work with somebody who listens to advice. I've seen that in William Ruto, and I believe we can make a good team together.
Okay.
What would, I must ask also, looking at how things have progressed over the last 3 years, in terms of looking at the way things have progressed over the last 3 years and how your politics has evolved, your politics as Eliud, and then now moving into the future with the decisions that you've decided to make, again, against the background of what Kenyans are looking for. If the position changes, or if you get in and you realize that maybe the sentiments that you have now would change, what would your reaction be?
You know, my sister, I'm one person who is very decisive. But ordinarily, before I arrive at any given decision, I adapt a participatory and consultative approach within whatever political formation I am in. I don't ordinarily just walk away in a huff. Mm-hmm. I try as much as possible to explore the available opportunities to sort out some of those issues internally. When you see me jump ship, that would mean that I've exhausted all the available opportunities to address some of the challenges I'm facing within that political formation. And whenever I make such decisions, some of them are painful decisions, some of them are very difficult decisions, I come out and I announce them publicly. But the starting point is to explore ways and means of addressing those issues internally within whatever political formation I am in.
You know, before your current position, Mr. Owalo, we had a politician from the Nyanza region who joined Jubilee. At that time, it was a novelty. I think he's the Secretary General of Jubilee as we speak. Now, given that ODM holds sway in that part of the world, do you think that your movement to the deputy party side will afford you the same sort of support that you may have had in the past?
You know, this is the argument. Let us stop looking at our politics in terms of tribes and ethnic enclaves. When are we going to adapt an issue-based approach to our politics? That's the direction we should be getting to. We want to know at the right time what agenda William Ruto has for Kenyans. We want to know what agenda the other presidential candidates will also have for Kenyans. And it has to be an agenda that is responsive. We should stop looking at leaders from economic lenses. And I believe you asked me this question when I was at your station last, when I was running for the Kipika parliamentary by-election.
Yes,
and
I did.
You remember you did?
I did.
And I did tell you at that point in time that I was not in the Kibra parliamentary race based on some ethnic stronghold. I told you that my stronghold at that point was the ideas I had and the agenda that I had for the people of Kibra.
Well,
I still stand by that position today.
Mr. Owalo, I think it is a good thing that you have a stand on the matter, and that is something that is laudable. Why I asked the question is that I assume that given that politics is, as is known to many, it's supposed to be a competitive sport, if I may use that analogy. And if one wants to win, one chooses what can best make them win. And to say that we must move away from tribal politics, it's like asking a horse to fly. In this country, us moving away from tribal politics.
That is the unfortunate situation.
No, it isn't unfortunate. It's a realistic situation. We will not move from our political...
Realistic but unfortunate.
You see, even if there is an understanding that other people who don't come from our so-called ethnic backgrounds may not necessarily be the people we want, we start our political thinking from our ethnic backgrounds. That's how we are as Kenyans.
I want to take you back a little bit.
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to work, I've decided to go and work with William Ruto because I want to get a political position within his political formation. Okay? I must be, of course, I am having personal political interests. But if I wanted to be in politics just to get a political position, I'll just go sit down with him, sort out whatever issues we have between the two of us. And as is the norm, I would get back to Kibra or anywhere else for that matter to get elected in Luo Nyanza if I was subscribing to that school of thought. There are certain ideals I hold very dear, and I will not bend my convictions and beliefs just because I want to get elected to a given political position. If I'm elected, it would be good because I'll have a political platform to enable me advance my agenda. If I'm not elected, so be it. That will be not the end of the world. I'll pursue and continue pursuing what I believe in from other perspectives.
Actually, I just want to go back to that point that CT is raising. You managed the CORD election in 2013.
Yes.
You are also senior in the NASA election campaign in 2017. Do you believe that this country is totally held under the yokes of tribalism, that there is no way people can vote based on anything other than tribalism?
In 2002, Kenyans overwhelmingly voted for Kibaki against current President Uhuru Kenyatta. It was largely an issue campaign because Kenyans wanted change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We are in another point of transition, and I want to draw a parallel between what is likely to happen in 2022 and what happened in the year 2002. We are going to witness a situation where Kenyans will say, we need a break from the past. We need a paradigm shift. I mean, our political space has been preoccupied with same faces, year in, year out. Why can't we have some new faces in the leadership of this country? I believe that time is coming, and it may as well just be 2023.
Is it going to be able to sustain it, assuming that that comes to pass? Is it going to be? Are we going to be able to sustain that momentum of electing Eliud Owalo, not because his name starts with an O, but just because of what Eliud Owalo represents?
That is where we should get to. That is where we should get to. We should elect leaders based on the virtues that they espouse, what they stand for, what their agenda is, and what they can do. We were at that level in the year 2002. But the unfortunate thing is the same that happened is the same culture of political deceit. The NAC government of Kibaki and Raila would have been a change government. But politics crept in. Once Kibaki was elected, people around him started thinking of how to preserve their space. So it is this same political deceit. These are the issues that we should be addressing. Let us not be blaming the Constitution. There is nothing fundamentally weak in our current Constitution. We should be looking at ourselves in the eye and saying, let us discard the culture of political deceit and conmanship.
I'm actually driving to that, and thank you very much for walking right into it. So, if in 2002, and you are also, not just an ordinary voter, even in 2002, if that was, if this is what was happening, if this is what was happening in 2002, in 2007, and in 2013, and in 2017, why haven't we seen formations that are actually advocating for votes based on ideology, votes based on principle, rather than votes based on tribe? You have headed 2 campaigns of those 3 that I've mentioned.
I've headed one campaign. I've headed one presidential campaign in the year 2013. Now, based on lessons that I have learned, for us to have a culture and attitudinal change within our national political fabric, we need, 1, a generational change in our leadership. Certain people need to exit the scene and appreciate the fact that they have done what they have made their contribution to the political space in this country. They need to give room for others. I believe William Ruto is an agent of necessity. If we are to have a paradigm shift in our politics, let's vote for the son of a common Mwananchi and pick it up from there, how to build around him and see if we can pursue an all-inclusive and reflective agenda.
Should we vote for someone because of his ability or because of his parental heritage?
1, facts are stubborn. We all belong to given backgrounds, and we belong also to certain families. But personally, I would not support a situation where 3 families lock themselves up in a room and decide that they are going to rotate leadership among themselves. That is very retrogressive thinking. That is what is really happening today. Kenyans don't want to speak about it, but we need to speak about it. There is nothing called the BBI, but it's a question of how do we sit together as members of privileged families and transfer power from one family to another.
Another thing that
attack or transfer of power.
I know that our time is running out, but another thing that people don't like to talk about is that moves that politicians make for their own political expediency or their own political alignment. And those might say that you've made this move for just that. Is it really for what Kenyans want, or are you looking to make a space for yourself in the upcoming elections for 2022, not to be forgotten?
I want to make a space for Kenyans. I believe William Ruto is the agent of that change that we require in 2022. A responsive leadership that addresses the needs of the common Mwananchi. I want to be part of his team. And I've made a deliberate and conscious decision to pursue that agenda to a logical conclusion.
So finally, Eliud, why now? In 2013, you told us that you were offered a position in the Jubilee administration, in the cabinet.
Yes, I turned it down.
And you turned it down. So what was it that was making you turn it down then, and now you want to work with the Deputy President of the Republic?
Who is in Jubilee?
I'm not working with Ruto as part of the Jubilee presidency. I'm working with William Ruto as an individual with whom we can form jointly a political formation moving forward. I'm not working with him as part of the presidency. I'm not working with William Ruto does not mean I'm part of the Jubilee government. Raila Odinga today is working with Uhuru Kenyatta, and he has said he's not part of the Jubilee government. So moving forward, I will pursue my political aspiration within the ambit of the Hustler political matrix. That's what I've said. And the leadership of that matrix is William Ruto. We can't run away from it.
All right.
I want to play that clip, the way you said you turned down that position in 2013 as we conclude the conversation.
Yes.
Are you getting it? And even after the elections of 2013, would you believe, I'm somebody who is principled. I got an offer from the Jubilee Party to become a cabinet secretary.
All right.
After the 2013 elections. And I declined as a matter of principle. I told them I've just headed the Raila presidential campaign. There is no way, even if you see some qualities in me, I will join.
That was it then.
Yes, those were my words. I will not take them back. I'm joining William Ruto as not part of the Jubilee current political dispensation, but as part of a political formation that will take this country forward from 2022 over the next 5 years.
Well, we want to thank you very much, Eliud Owalo, for speaking to us this morning. Eliud Owalo is a politician and a management consultant. He's worked on various policies for things that are actually happening in this country. And now he says he's joined the William Ruto presidential bid for 2022. He's been explaining his move. He's explaining what he thinks the country should look at. Asante sana, Eliud, for speaking to us, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.